Overcoming the jargon trap. Hey legends, James Russell from TradieVA. Every week on the Time Rich Tradie, we find out what it takes to build a trade empire, get you off the tools and not spend 80 hours a week doing it. If you like what you hear, subscribe to get more juice. So, the common sense paradox, or as I like to call it, it's obvious lie. The it's obvious lie. So, this is something that is costing you money every day. And it's moments that saying things like replace the lot, fix the problem area, installed GPO, dug a hole, whatever it happens to be, that these are statements that in unto itself, if you put them into ChatGPT, and we had this on another podcast, it wouldn't know what you were talking about. There's an assumption between what you're putting down and what someone else is picking up. And how many times has this come out and you're going, but it's just common sense. They know that when I say fix the lot, that it's this and this, but then it doesn't happen. They know that when I say GPO, double GPO, Eclipse, or whatever that part number is, because 90% of the time that's what it is. Now, it's not about blaming anybody. The simple truth is this is costing you money. Something happens either on the quote that doesn't get translated to the scope of works that doesn't get translated into the job, or what's happening on the job getting translated into the invoice. Something happens at one of these points, and then what you try to do is you're fighting the fire, as we call it, you're picking up the grenade that's already going off. So today's episode is not about the person. It's not about trying to fix that problem or make things more specific around the way you train people. Today, we're going to fix it by putting in one simple system that's about preventing those communication breakdowns, making sure you're scalable, and taking a lot of pressure off not just you, but everyone in that cycle. You, your admin, your team on site that are doing the job, and anybody who's quoting it if they're separate. Because the hidden cost of this miscommunication that you obviously know is when this communication is off and jobs don't run as smoothly as they do, your rework and cleanup skyrockets. Your good people are getting frustrated because, again, there's this disconnect between what they say, what gets done, or even worse, when they think they've done the right job and then they get in trouble. Ultimately, your standards are dropping, double handling and your admin go through the roof. Therefore, your profitability at the end of the day, net profitability, is also slimming those margins down. And you'll keep wondering every day why you're feeling so drained at the end of the day, or every time you walk on site, or every time you go to see one of those invoices or check it off. What do we want to do? We want to make sure that it's very simple. Once a quote goes through, that quote turns into a scope of works that is clear that someone can get done, and that once someone does the work on the day, that work can be translated into invoice, timesheet, whatever it needs to be at the end, and everything flows through that without there being a miscommunication or without something being obviously missed that needs to be done or chased up. So miscommunication or rework chasing. That's what we want to achieve. If we can achieve that and make the customer happy, right, then we win, right? We want to make sure that at the end of the day, your team know that you've got their back, you're there to make their job easier, that they're not going to need to rely on a perfect memory at the end of a long day, and that they're going to be valued for what's between their ears. So what is this solution? I call it the clarity triangle, and it's very simple. And it's not about being bogged down in more paperwork. This has to make things easier for you, for everybody involved, you, your admin, and your team on site, whether they be quoting or doing the job. It's not a cowboy move, it's a strategic one. And this is how we need to do it properly. So, first things first, we need to understand the jargon. And we talked about jargon before, is what is the things that are not specific. Obviously, part number XYZ is specific. That's not jargon. But GPO, that is jargon. Dig a hole, fix the lot is jargon. Now, create a jargon dictionary. And you go, a dictionary like 300 pages? No. Most of my clients' jargon dictionaries, they need to fit on the back page of an A4, and it usually starts with only 20 to 30 line items. 20 to 30 things that are allowed to be said that are not specific because they have an answer. And that jargon means this, and everybody agrees. GPO, when you say that, means this. If you want to install something different, you need to be specific. So create a jargon dictionary. And I think we spoke about this in one of the other episodes that goes on the back of your data transfer checklist, which is the second part. Data jargon dictionary, then it's the data transfer checklist. There is usually at least two of these. One, when you create the scope of works, and one for the job. Now, most people start with the job one, which again makes perfect sense because it's usually where people see the problems the most. Someone's forgot to put what action items they've taken. They forgot to put the status of the job. They forgot to say, oh, I need this part sorted. This is your quality control for you to make sure you get the information and your admin gets the information to be able to process the job. And for the team on site, at the end of the day, it's because they then don't need to think about, okay, what am I missing? What else have I need to put in this? They can just go through and knock it out. Like I said, two data transfer checklists. One for the job checklist, usually has who am I with, times you're there, actions taken, materials. We've spoken about this in another podcast. The other one, though, which most people don't look at first, because that's where they see the problem, is the initial quotation checklist or the scope of works checklist. This is where I found it can have the biggest leverage for such a simple few questions. When you're doing the scope of works, what are those 5 to 10 things you need to get down? For example, what is the client objective? Often there's what's being done, but not why. If their client's objective is to be able to use their toilet within 24 hours of being fixed, that's the objective. And to do it with a budget of under X, that's the objective. Okay, great. What are the actions that need to be taken? What's the timeline? Again, every business is going to have a slightly different scope of works checklist, but have one, again, so that your scope of works can easily be understood by anybody who's going to be out doing the job on the day. Again, that'll stop rework. The third part of the clarity triangle, though, I found to be the most important, because what you've just added in the first two is extra work. Now, when I say it's extra work, it's probably what they should have been doing all the time anyway. But as far as it could be seen by someone on site, it's extra work. So the third part of the clarity triangle is allowing them to use voice and visuals to pass this information to your team, to the admins in the office. With voice notes, we talk about being able to have this done so that they can get an A4 sheet laminated that's got these questions, and they can just do a voice memo with what they're actually doing here. If you use Google Chat, it actually will transcribe it for you anyway, but then let the admin dissect that and put it into the right categories. To do a scope of works, a voice memo for a standard job might take 2 minutes. To write it out might take 10 plus. To do a full job summary, end of day summary or end of job summary, again, might take 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes to do with voice and a couple of photos, whereas it might take 10 minutes to do if you're asking them to tap stuff out on their phone, which is always painful. So clarity triangle, and you could put this in place tomorrow because it is one page, maybe 5 questions, few bits of jargon on the back. Just pick the top 10 things that have gone wrong and been misunderstood in your jobs in the last month. There's your start of your jargon dictionary. Shove that on the back of the checklists. That's it. Give that laminated sheet to your guys. Say, do a voice memo at the end of each job with this information. That's what I need. It will solve all those problems that you've been seeing. And remember, this is not you blaming anybody, one of your team. This is in fact you saying, hey guys, I've noticed that there's this flow and everybody gets frustrated. So what we're doing is we're putting this system in place to make your job easier so that you can do your great work and not be worried that it's going in the wrong direction. It's a very different conversation than, hey, why didn't you get me the photos? Hey, why did you do X? Hey, go back out and fix that job because you stuffed up. Again, that's why people leave. You want to have retention? Go in with how you can help them achieve the standards that you are setting. And I know you've been wrestling with this idea because I'm always asking the boys to do more stuff and there's always resistance. This is where your team gets to rise. You put this process in place and you do it right, they're going to come along with you on the ride. And I just love seeing when this has been put into place in businesses, how many different wastes this gets rid of. Money, time, emails, chase, phone calls. I can already see your face. You're already going, oh my goodness, I can actually see so many of these disappearing. So, legends, if this hit home, or if you've got any questions, you're going to reach out, of course. But if this one hit home, don't sit on it. You can get this done tomorrow so easily. It doesn't take anything in your job management system. It's a piece of paper that you can get done in a Google Doc, print it out, just make it happen. Your sanity will depend on this system, especially as you start to scale and get more people. And as always, systemize it, optimize it, delegate it. That's how you're going to scale it. Catch you next time on the Time Rich Tradie.